to the young nigga, man, you ain't got to prove yourself to nobody, man. Y'all niggas losing your whole life, man. Y'all niggas is getting life in prison. You know what I'm saying? Got them dying. Going out cause you feel like you gotta prove something to a nigga. The same thing you trying to prove something to, number one, they don't give a fuck about you. Number two, they really ain't about it themselves. You feel me? And number three, they ain't gonna give a damn about proving themselves. Be smart, man. Real gangster, real G gonna move in silence anyway, man. It's gonna show. That shit, you can sense it. Like I was saying earlier, man, you can sense that shit, man. You know what I'm saying? The real, you can sense that shit, man. That shit ain't never gonna be fabricated. So, you ain't never gotta prove yourself, nigga. As long as you know what you will do, man, you know how you is. As long as you stand for something as a man, you feel me? That's all what really matter, man.
Whew. I ain't gonna lie, yo, this shit a little bit hard to talk about because I know the history behind it. I know that it has a lot to do with how this YouTube channel has came to be, as bad as that may have sound. And you know, I really do struggle going back and forth of trying to make sure I don't present something that quote unquote sound or look too hood or too tough. But guns are just too much of a normal thing over here, just overall over Georgia. Obviously for the purposes of self-defense, but once again, you know, if you listen to a lot of music or you're not personally around here or just in the southern states, you know, you may have a entirely different perspective. And it's important for me to point that out only because just due to the negative associations. For those of y'all who don't know, Decatur is quote unquote east side Atlanta or east side of Atlanta, not even the city metropolitan area. Y'all probably seen the scene in Atlanta by Donald Glover when he robbed the Miss Winters, you know, with the two kids. Probably gonna find out the name of that episode. Probably gonna show a little bit of that on the screen for y'all. For those of y'all who don't know, and only know Atlanta for most of it's the entertainers from the city. We'll just point out some. Tracy T, 21 Savage, Young Nudie, Jacquees. You know, this all just been one way or another have named the street or city. And another one, Andre 3000, that also mentioned it, or the Ghetto Mafia. What I learned from this city is that everything is not really as good or as bad as it seems. And what I mean about that is that when you look at these people, or sometimes even their messed up or run down apartment complexes, and then, you know, it was even like me personally, when I scroll through my phone or just research my area, the way how it was presented on the internet was just like a lot different compared to how everybody that was actually around those certain streets called and looked at it. When you look it up and you hear 21 Savage name, you know, Glenwood Road, ain't nobody out whacking us like shit. I'm not finna tell you as if that's 100% BS. You know, there's obviously crime everywhere. But just overall, for those who don't know, crime overall is just typically blown out of proportion. And I'm gonna tell y'all a story. And part of it is dealing with me. Me, when I was growing up, thank God I was a nerd when I was looking back at it. And I had people who called me out for not falling into certain temptations or trying to be something that I wasn't. Whether that was the tough guy, whether that was the gambler, whether that was the player, whether it was that like the gangster criminal, the drug dealer. Boy, it was just too many influences. And, you know, just growing up over here, I didn't really entirely know who I was. And I already just didn't, you know, I didn't really have the best at home living situation either. And I don't mean that always in terms of financials, because when it got to high school and we got our first house, you know, it personally felt like heaven. But I'd say over here, it's just sort of like when I got over here to high school, you know, closer to Glenwood Road or the specific Lindsay Drive, is I'm starting to realize when I look back then to now, a lot more of the patterns in me, I'm starting to recognize that's predominant now. Like, for those who don't know, like, I was bullied growing up, and shit. I'll just go exit that personal. Like, shit, I was abused growing up. And that shit still mess with me today. I spend a lot of nights crying in bathrooms. I spend a lot of nights wishing I wasn't here. I spend a lot of nights self-reflect thinking about it. A past is not really easy to forget and shit. If I'm, once again, like I said, if I'm being honest, it's been too many times I done lost myself. I look at myself in my past, the kid who just tried to live in his own fantasy world and just, look around and realize, 1 and 2 wasn't really put together. I was a dreamer. I just didn't even feel like I was here. Like, I remember there was an interview where I seen somebody said, when you're 18, you don't even know what the fuck going on for real. Well, shit, that's pretty much, that's how you could sum it up. Like, I feel like once it came over here, after we left Redan Cove Apartments, really, so I'll say somewhere around that time, around high school, when everybody get older, I guess, dudes started to switch up, or start to play more in more personas, or I guess, quote unquote, show themselves to be more of a product of their environment. Too many trends was being picked on and pushed around, too many followers, too many lames. And, back then when I was younger, I just wishing I had more money. They weren't really in the best financial situation despite like a house. My mom wasn't always the richest, and I know y'all heard that story a million times. But the only reason I got to put an emphasis on that is just because I know when I used to think about the past or self-reflect on it, and the way how it could be presented, like I said, on the media, a lot of people associate struggle with success, and in real life, that's just not the case. I never thought that when looking back at the person I just described to you now, that I would have ended up potentially, considering pointing guns at people. I never thought I would have considered potentially doing something wrong and hoping something good come of it. I never thought that I was even gonna make it to the military. I didn't finish my term. I got knocked out 2 months later. But a lot of life shit in general just started to kick in. You want to know one sad truth I learned over here? Not everybody get to choose their life. I'm hearing stories about what used to be the stepside of my family. We used to seemingly be smile, be cheerful. And now I'm hearing cases. And now, despite my past, I somehow made it to the mind state where I could look at it and say, I understand. And that's sad to say. I never thought that there would be a time in my life where I'd be telling my little sister to get off the bunk bed because somebody's getting shot at running past the window. I never thought, there'd be like a time where I'd be on the porch chilling and getting used to counting in the gunshots that typically go off, to a point where it could be a habit, to a point where I could see the argument take place, or, me and my sister on the porch talking, and we could see our argument go down the street, and we could hear the shots soon come after, and everybody in panic. At a certain point, you just get numb to it. And that's why I feel like that clip that I played to y'all in the beginning was so important, because I'll just sum it up with this. It's an old Call of Duty quote, as cliche as it sounds. It said, "Those who interested in glorify war haven't seen war." And I solely believe it. I don't give a fuck what nobody say. There's somebody else that said, it was I believe the bodyguard named Dredd. He's like, someone tell you if they doing something wrong or potentially threatening, or could lead in such like detrimental, long-lasting consequences, and try to tell you straight to your face that they ain't scared and they the toughest guy out here, whether they crashing out or not, or whether they show that facial expression or not, whether they have it going on outside or too bad or too big or too tough or not. They tell you they wasn't scared, you know, they lying. If one thing I learned the hard way, because I was following my influences, used to think certain shit was cool, listening to all types of music, watching all types of movies without actually just even getting like a small fragment of it. This ain't my word again, but this is somebody else's. He was like, take this how you wish. He said, if you ain't scared of a certain type of bad lifestyle, you ain't seen enough. You not that guy. Stay your ass inside. I'll tell y'all another story like y'all probably already done heard on my channel. Well, fuck it. I think when I came over here, not even just in terms of quote-unquote street stuff or things, you know, where things could go violent or wrong, just overall in terms of financials. Not everything just is or as nice as what it seemed to be. You gotta play your cards in a place where it's not too many places to play your cards at. Like, a good paying job over here is $18 an hour with a rent of a 2-bedroom hitting around $1,200 now. We're in the times of inflation. At the time I'm recording this is 2024. Only reason I put this message out here about this quote-unquote, I don't even like to refer to it as my city. It sound like some fucking corny-ass rapper shit. They don't be running nothing nowhere. The only reason I even put this out here, it's not only just like a little diary for me, is I just hope those who see this gun lifestyle or guess quote-unquote get too cocky, because John Wayne syndrome is a real thing where you get real egotistical when you get like a weapon in your hand, or just overall, let's say boxing, and you just start to feel more powerful and more capable of doing things with, you know, little to no repercussion, or doing things in a perspective that I can handle it no matter what it is or whatever type of pressure. You know, I don't want that to go in y'all head and shit. I fell victim to it, and what I mean by that, like, I didn't crash out or do nothing stupid. I just had those thoughts in my head. Like, I just wish I knew what I was in store for.